Jake, David mentioned, when you mentioned it, I'm not sure, but that you're going to start this week. Sort of like that rotation was going to be a thing. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, I am. Me and Dave had a conversation at the start of the tour, and he mentioned that he was going to give all of us a crack in the first 3 games. So, I'm really excited for the opportunity against Italy. Wind back the clock to 2018, made my debut here, so I have pretty fond memories. So I'm excited for the weekend.
What are your reflections on that week? And a good win too, to boot.
Yeah, I remember when Czech told me, it was, I guess, a mix of, I was quite nervous when he first told me. I thought I'd get a few minutes off the bench, but I ended up starting the game. And I guess a bit of the unknown. You don't know what Test match rugby is really like until you get out there. But, I think, playing for the Wallabies has always been a dream, as cliche as it is. And to get the opportunity and then have a good win was awesome.
4 years on, how do you think you're a different player to the player in 18?
I obviously think in time your core skills develop. I probably think I ran the ball a little bit more back then because my pass or kick probably wasn't up to the skill it was now. I guess I've developed in leadership to a certain degree, being captain at the Waratahs, and as you do over time, I guess you develop your skills. So, I'd like to think I've developed. Used developed about 5 times there, but myself as a player.
Nick said that clearly, there's obviously a lot of rotation as well, and he said that it's probably the highest, just position in the Wallabies, a lot of depth there. As one of those 3 vying for that position, how do you guys view that competition?
Obviously the competition's pretty red hot at the moment. Nick and Tate both playing really good games. Tate against the Scots and Whitey over the weekend. I'm pretty familiar with rotation before. Me and Nick Phipps used to do it a little bit. I think we've got a luxury that we've got really good halfbacks in the country and are desperate to play footy.
Take us into what the 9 who's not playing is doing on the sideline. I know you guys have been running messages throughout to help the other 2. Can you talk us through what you guys are seeing down there?
Yeah, so I think obviously 9 and 10's usually really involved with game plan and strategy. They're pretty across the detail and usually have a pretty good rugby knowledge. So what they do is have one of us, one who can deliver good messages and know what they're talking about, and 2 that can just stay involved in the game and reads the game pretty well and can also send messages back up to the box if they see anything happening. So I think that's sort of been the idea around that.
There's a couple of TARS guys with yet to get their Test Cup debut in Mark and Ben. Can you talk through how their tour has been, and would you love to see them get a crack this week?
Yeah, I think Marky and Benny had a great year. Performed really well at Aussay, and I thought that was a really good tournament. And you saw guys benefit from that. I'm unsure of the team, but I'd love to see those 2 guys get a game. Get their first cap for the Wallabies would be awesome. You've got Donna, who's a really silky playmaker, great catch pass, long kick at him. You've got Marky, who is a real aerial threat and dangerous one-on-one. So I'm sure if they got their opportunity, they'd be awesome.
How would you best sum up the mood from the guys a couple of days on from that France result? Is it still upset at defeat, or a few days later you're seeing the positives of what was a pretty good performance?
It takes a little bit. Obviously, I think everyone's still disappointed by that result. Since we dominated a lot of the game and put ourselves definitely in a position to win it. But there were definite positives from that game. I think that length of the field try, Ren's be pretty happy with. It's sort of his bunny that, and to do that on a stage like that against such a quality team is impressive, and to match their forward pack too. I thought we did a great job throughout the night. It was just disappointing, sort of that last 5 minutes we let it slip. But definitely seeing the positives in that game.
High for Lalakai finishing that playoff and then coming off with an injury, heading home. Tough luck with him.
Yeah, a real tough one for La. To score a try like that and then have a stress fracture in his leg is really disappointing, and he's starting to play some really good footy and getting an opportunity. So disappointing for La, but obviously, I know he'll train hard. He'll be in a really, really good position next year, and he'll be good to go.
So Izzy and Tom coming on very late in that piece. What was that like, getting into that cauldron at the start of France?
Yeah, it was pretty hectic. 80,000 screaming French fans. It was it was awesome to come on the field late in the game. But as Jake said before, it was pretty disappointing last sort of 5 minutes where we pretty much had it. We thought we had it in the bag, and then yeah, just a few errors on our behalf, and we let them back in the game. So it was great to get on the field, but obviously disappointing with the result.
How are you relishing your time back in a gold jersey, mate?
Yeah, it's awesome. Like I've been in and out sort of the last year or so, and my last test was in England last year against England. So it's great to be back playing in Europe. It's the home of rugby. It's where rugby was invented, and there's always packed stadiums, 80,000 people each week. So it's awesome to be back.
There are different pods and groups in a rugby team. Are the props their own little family at the moment? Talk us through the dynamic of that crew on tour.
Yeah, it's been there's 9 of us, so there's a few getting around, and it's they've been awesome. Front rowers are they're different to most of the other players in the team. We're sort of the bigger boys, and we're sort of the laughable guys of the group. So it's been great to get around some new guys as well, and I haven't played with guys like Sam Talakai in 10 years since I was at club footy. So it's been awesome to get amongst them and see how they do things.
Cool.
Anything online, guys? Mel or Nath? Anything on that?
I just sort of follow up one for Jake about the rotation. Do you feel like, obviously you've played a lot of tests now, but do you feel like maybe this one's going to have a little bit of extra pressure on you? Do you sort of approach it as your big chance, I guess, to make an impression starting? I mean, you have started before, but you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like you're auditioning, I suppose.
Not really. I think if you look back 2 games ago, I started 2 games against the All Blacks. So, I guess that's the way you could look at it. I just see it as another opportunity to play well. I'm not too focused about the rotation and thinking this is my last opportunity. I need to prepare well because Italy are going to be a good opposition and play some good footy.
And obviously, we're not sure who's starting at 10, but is it tough on Bernard to have a different halfback every week? Do you feel like you guys have to, or does it matter? You all kind of train the same, so it doesn't really make too much difference who's there?
Yeah, I think we train copious amounts of hours a week, and they sort of mix up the teams a little bit. So, for example, I played with Dono for the last 2-3 years. I played with Bernard for 4 or 5 years, and me and Noah started multiple amount of tests together. So, you get a pretty good feel for guys at training. It's not just a game where you end up with a 9 and 10 combination. You train throughout the week, so you get pretty familiar with the guys.
Has Dave sort of said that? I mean, does he want to bed down a starting combination? Is that like before too long, and then use that one sort of all the games next year? Is that sort of his plan that he's sort of conveyed to you guys, or it's still pretty open ended?
Yeah, it's still pretty open. I'm not too sure. All I do know is we've got a luxury at 9. We've got 3 guys or 2 other guys who can start. And like I touched on earlier, I played some really good rugby in the first 2 games. So that stuff's really out of my control. I need to focus on playing well this weekend, and whatever decision Dave makes, that'll be the decision. So be it.
I guess this is for either guy, but I mean, you look at those 2 tries the French scored. It came in that sort of last 5 minutes of each half. When you look at sort of where this team needs to go to compete with the best, you think just that kind of executing for those last moments of the half is just that key thing that needs to improve heading forward? And I guess the follow-up would be sort of, have you identified maybe like a key area that's just been missing in that regard?
I don't think it was necessarily that's like an ongoing issue that in the back ends of both halves. No, we've been quite good in that in earlier games in the year. I just think that was something that happened in that game. It's not necessarily an issue throughout all the games, but in saying that, we have spoken about working on our consistency throughout games, not just at the start of games or at the back end of halves. It's throughout the full 80 minutes, and I think probably one thing we're working on is getting a full 80-minute performance, which we haven't seen yet this year, and we're really striving towards that. But I don't think it's a specific thing in terms of the back ends of halves. It's more about throughout the full 80 minutes.
Anything else?
Hey, Tom, sorry, Mel. Do you want to go, Mel? No. Tom, Taniela had spoken a bit last week about how he hadn't kind of hit the heights that he was looking to, but then he came out and had a stormer on the weekend. Like, what's been your perspective of him and kind of how he's kind of built up over the season, and what are you noticing and what are you learning from him, I guess?
Yeah, I guess Nella's he's one of a kind. He's 135 kilos and he's about as tall as I am, and he's one of the best athletes I've ever played with. So he's a different beast, but just the way he went about his work on the weekend, you could just tell he came out there, he was relaxed. He was you could see he had a smile on his face in that first 5 minutes, and that's when Taniela is playing his best footy, when he's relaxed, when he's enjoying himself. And you saw how that first scrum, that was that was quite impressive sitting on the bench watching that. So I'm so happy that he's back to playing his best footy, and it's a scary prospect for the rest of the tour.
Had you kind of noticed that had been missing a bit, that kind of glint in his eye and that that mindset that he had, or had he been able to kind of keep that from everyone?
Oh, it's sort of been hard for me I've been in and out of the squad, so I haven't really seen him day to day. But I guess that's something that only he would ever know. It's hard looking outside in to see whether he's whether he's really enjoying the game, or whether he's feels right in his prep. So it's definitely something that's hard to comment on from the outside in. But from the weekend, you could definitely see that that the spark was back, and hopefully he can bring that for the last 3 games.
Thanks. And you obviously had a run to 2018 and then a bit of a break. How have you changed as a player over that period, coming back to doing what you're doing now? Like, what kind of things have changed in your game or in your kind of approach to the sport?
Yeah, I suppose it's having a couple of season-end injuries after 2018 certainly put rugby into perspective, and I think it's allowed me to sort of take a step back and have a look and notice that rugby's not everything in life, and that I think that's really made me enjoy my time coming back into the Wallabies squad. I get to enjoy every game, because I always know that an injury could be right next on the next day. So it's really made me enjoy my time and just appreciate every game that I get when I'm back here.